Welcome to the Art of Badassery, where I explore what it takes to live life on your own terms, break free from the status quo, and unleash your inner badass. Whether you're a rebel at heart or simply seeking inspiration to step outside your comfort zone, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Mahara Wayman, and each week I dive into the stories, insights, and strategies of those who have mastered the art of badassery and are living life to the fullest. They smile when no one is looking. Welcome to the Art of Badassery. I'm your host, Mahara Wayman, and today we have a truly inspiring guest joining us. Melissa Rose grew up in the late 70s and 80s, attending a one-room schoolhouse from grade 4 to grade 8 and spending a year at boarding school in Missouri. Despite her dream of becoming a nurse being halted by physical challenges, Melissa pursued a different path, earning a BA degree. Now living in beautiful Helena, Montana, she finds joy in riding her motorcycle with her husband, exploring new places, hiking to waterfalls, working in her yard, and most importantly, creating beautiful opportunities for others to find hope and recovery. So get ready to be inspired by Melissa's really incredible journey and her passion for helping others. That's badass. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so very much. I'm excited to be here with you today.
I can't wait to jump in. Okay, so first of all, I don't want to sound like I'm from another planet, but I didn't realize that one-room schoolhouses existed, like except for, from way, way, way back when. What was it like up in such a small community?
Well, you know way too much about your neighbors.
Okay. Good thing or bad thing?
Uh, Probably a good thing because when something goes sideways, everybody knows and everybody pitches in and helps out. Um, I think, of course, when I was growing up, going to the one-room schoolhouse wasn't a big deal because that was the only school to go to. At that point, there was like 5 or 7 kids, I think, when I was there, and very small community. The schoolhouse was a trailer house. Our teacher would drive out and stay in a little camper by the school during the week and then go back home on the weekends. It was cool. We didn't know any different. And created space for me to get my driver's license when I was 13 so I could drive to school because it was about 10 miles one way.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm having a slight panic attack. Did you just say 13? You got your driver's license?
Yeah, so I could drive to school.
Is that still legal? I mean, seriously. Obviously, this wasn't just
In
yesterday.
rural Montana, as far as I know, but I don't know. It's been, long time
Okay.
since then. But yeah.
Can I just put that on the list as being your first act of badassery? I mean, I could barely tie my shoelaces when I was 13, much less drive.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, when you grow up driving trucks and tractors, by the time you can reach the pedals and see over the dash, you know, feeding cows and all the things,
Fair enough.
you've been driving for a while, probably.
All right, let's jump forward a little bit to school, university. You
Yeah,
wanted to be a nurse.
I did.
First off, how come?
I love helping people. And even as a kiddo growing up, like, I don't know if it was my presence or aura or what, but if somebody had a problem, we'd go sit under a tree or some quiet place and they would just, and whether I could help or not, I was a safe place to be able to just, and it continued. I mean, animals would do that with me too. I mean, something would be sick and I'd be out playing in the yard. Here'd come a sick pet, bum lamb or the cat or whatever. Whether I knew what to do with them or not or how to help, it wasn't really a thing. But I loved helping people. And that has carried through, even though I didn't get to be a nurse, that carried through to what I get to do today. And it just, I don't know, it fills my heart up.
Well, another component of being a badass, and I talk about this quite a bit on the program, is following your joy. So often we are taught to do otherwise. We are encouraged to just do what I tell you. Mommy knows best, daddy knows best. community knows best. Go be a this, be a that, be a that. So another badass trait that you have. But let's talk about nursing. What can you share with us the story behind why that didn't pan out for you?
So by the time I was graduating from high school, my multiple sclerosis had progressed to the point where I couldn't have handled the physical and mental part of nurses training or nursing
Let me
school.
just jump in here first. Um, I've typically associated MS with a disease that afflicts older women or adult women, I should say.
Yeah.
When were you first diagnosed with multiple
I
sclerosis?
was 33.
Okay.
So at the time I graduated, I didn't know that's what was happening. I'd been to doctors and doctors, and they were just like, "Go home, honey. You'll be fine. Take a nap. You'll be good." But my capacity to think, plus my body stamina to be actually able to do a 12-hour shift on my feet, I could have never done it.
Okay. So you had the symptoms, but not the diagnosis.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
What did it take for you to say no to your dream of being a nurse? I mean, I understand physical limitations, right? If you think in your mind, if you know you can't do it, but then I'm curious about the other component that's needed to make such a tough decision.
I guess the biggest thing for me was I valued so highly the education that I would receive and would need to retain. And my brain was not there. I couldn't do it. And I was like, okay, so what can I do? If my body continues on this trajectory, what can I do that isn't as demanding mentally and physically?
Share with us the trajectory that was shared with you at that time. Or did that not come until later on when you had the
Yeah,
diagnosis?
it kind of came in later on after I had chosen to do like a more of a teaching business degree. It didn't light me up, but I was like, well, at least I could do it though.
Okay.
And then I got married, started having kiddos, didn't use my degree, never have. Um, and yeah, the whole idea of being able to pursue that level of education just I was struggling to keep food on the table and clothes clean and just keep up with raising kids, dragging my body around the house. And yeah, it was not going to be something I was going to be able to do. So I gave up on it.
So what happened next that actually led you to walk into a doctor's office and walk out with a name, a diagnosis?
Oof. So the thing that really triggered this one is one evening I was getting ready, I was making dinner for everybody, right? And I had boys, and boys' fascinations with anything that are sharp. So all of my butcher knives were up in the cupboard so they couldn't reach them. And I was reaching up to grab the butcher knife to cut the meat for dinner. And thank God I didn't have a hold of that thing yet. And there was something popped in the back of my neck and I hit the floor. I couldn't move anything. I couldn't open my eyes. I could hear. I couldn't speak. And my kids, I just remember them. I could hear them just screaming in my face, and I could feel the heat of they were that close. Mom. It took me, we had no way then to communicate with my then husband. So I laid there on the floor. The kids were freaking out until dad got home. And then it was probably, I don't know, several hours. The timeline is kind of really blurry for me right there, but got me on the bed several hours before I could slowly start to, my limbs started working. I could open my eyes, I could talk a little bit. But that's what we were like, okay, this is crazy. We've got to figure out what's going on. So that led to about a year and a half of being poked and prodded and seeing specialists and traveling everywhere and trying to figure out what the heck was going on that ended up in the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis.
Okay. First of all, thanks for sharing that story with us. My heart's just racing. I can't imagine how terrifying that must have been, not only for you, but for your children. Secondly, full disclosure, I do not know much about the disease, but is it typically that difficult to diagnose?
It can be. For me, it was kind of ticking off all the boxes of what it could be, and then what we were left with was MS. Um, yeah, multiple sclerosis is one of the harder ones to diagnose.
Okay. And would you mind, for our listeners that know the term but don't actually know what it means, would you mind telling us a bit about what that actually means?
Sure. So, multiple sclerosis in its purest form is categorized as a disease process that affects the nerves and the myelin sheath around the nerve. So, in the medical world, something they say that the autoimmune or the immune system begins to attack the myelin sheath and begins to eat that away. So it's almost like how you have an electrical cord that is shrouded or protected with a sheath, right? And it's kind of the same idea. Our nerves are protected by a myelin sheath. So when that protection kind of gets a hole in it or a hole is eaten into it, then that creates space for a short in the nerve or that nerve to not be able to work correctly. So in its simplest form, that's what it is. In doing what I do, and I can test for that. I can tell you why that's happening, and we can actually reverse that process, the demyelination process. So it allows the body then to recover. But yeah, at that time when I was diagnosed, I didn't know this stuff, right? I hadn't worked on this side of the table yet. So for me, because everybody else in my family, not everybody, but most of the ladies in my family had MS or had been diagnosed with MS, I was just like, well, it's a family thing. Here it is. Merry Christmas.
So it is hereditary.
It's said to be.
So, okay. Interesting.
Again, because now I'm on this side of it, I'm like, okay, yes, there are pieces that are hereditary, but they're there for a reason and we can actually work with those.
Okay. Before we jump into what you do now, which I'm sure you guys have figured out that this is what she does now. She helps people. I want to do a little bit of a deeper dive into, if you can share with us the steps, the thought process, and steps, the action that you took to get better. Because I got to tell you, you look flipping awesome. Like, you look like a super healthy woman. I would never in a million years have thought that you suffered with or have suffered with this disease. So, what went on, Melissa?
So you get to see the after.
Yeah.
Um, so when I got my diagnosis, because I knew what MS looked like, because I had watched it in my mom, my grandma had passed away with it, my aunt had it, my cousin had it, my sister had it. I knew what that meant. And I knew that as far as anybody knew in my world at that time, there was no reversal. There is no coming out of it. And the doctor when he gave me the diagnosis, literally, he was like, the best we can do is use some disease modifying drugs to slow this down for you. But, with how quickly it's progressing for you, you'll probably be bedridden by the time you're 45 and very likely not with us by the age 50. I'm 40. And I accepted that because there was nothing else in my world of knowledge that said any different. So I chose not to do the drugs because I looked at them and thought, well, if this thing's eating me alive, why put something else in my body that's going to eat me alive too? Let's just figure out how to live life the best we can and go for it. And but the days and what turned into years after that was very deep grieving because I was looking at those time frames, right? By the age of 45, very likely I wasn't going to be able to attend my kids' graduation. I wasn't going to be able to watch them get married. I wouldn't be able to be around even to see my grandkids. I've got 3 boys. Then they're all boys, so they're just lucky they've passed 20 and they've got all their fingers and toes. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to do that. So A lot of grieving, a lot of letting go, a lot of darkness, a lot of depression. And because of the whole thing that was going on, my husband cheated on me. And so my marriage was falling apart. I mean, he was scared to death. You know, how am I going to take care of a wife and raise these kids? Not that I'm excusing that, but that was a lot of his fear. It was mine too. I was like, how do we even do this? So we moved to a new town, a new state, and nothing happens by accident. But this precious person came into my world as a new friend. And I'm struggling. I can not walk well at all. She's like, hey, why don't you come see my doc? And I thought, I love you, but I ain't going near your doc. I've been poked and prodded. I know what's going on. I know what's happening. No, but she just lovingly kept after me. And finally, I gave in. So I went to see her doc. Precious man. And I blame him still today that I can walk. And he's like, I'll take that. I didn't expect anything to happen. I mean, there was no room in my head to think about maybe this could be different. So, in his gentle way, he started kind of asking me, how would you feel about if we started working on this? How would you feel about if we? I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, do whatever you want to do. I had no preconceived ideas. But when I started following his protocol and what he was telling me to do, I started getting better. I mean, the first thing I remember was, so this left side had been numb for years. I couldn't feel anything, right? And I started getting tingles in my hand. Like, what the heck is going on? And then I started to understand my body's starting to come back. And I started to get excited because I was like, what if I could get better, even a little bit better? And it's addictive, you guys, when your body starts to feel better and you have not expected anything to happen, right? It's like, holy, is this real? Is it going to last? Is it just an oops that's going to be gone in a week? And I was always kind of waiting for the next shoe to fall. Like, and it was an up and down journey, but about 2.5 years.
Or before you tell us anymore, I've got to jump in and just ask, how the heck do you go from giving up, like fully just whatever, this is it, got to make it, to allowing yourself to hope and then navigating that journey? Because to your point, I cut you off just as you were explaining it's up and, but really, what are some of the key things that you either told yourself or did or the universe brought to you as a book or a saying or a podcast? Like, how did you navigate with such grace this particular part of your journey?
I had to choose me. I had to choose me. My whole life I'd been taught everybody's, God, others than you. But I had to choose me. I had to choose to make choices that put me in the center. And I'd never done that in my whole born days. I had to say, if I am going to be well, I'm going to change these pieces about my life, about my choices, about my food, about my sleep, about what I say yes to and what I say no to. I have to take care of me. I am worth it.
Okay, I'm ringing the proverbial bell right now because such badassery in recognizing that you are worth it. And it's one of the things that my clients talk about a lot. I talk about a lot all the time on the show is OMG. Just put your hand on your heart and say, I matter. And the world is your oyster when you say that and mean it. And I just want to say, I'm so glad that you chose you.
Me too.
So glad that you chose you. What did that choice mean for those around you? Let's get real here.
It meant a fight. it meant a fight because my husband at the time thought it was a bunch of foo-foo and crockery and stupid. But I'm like, hey, it's making a difference and I'm getting better. So it meant changing food in the house. It meant that the house was quiet by 9 o'clock so mom could sleep. It meant that I didn't go to everything. He had to go. He had to be a parent. Um, and he did. He stepped up. My kids had to realize that mom had this much energy. And when she said no, it meant no. You don't bug her. You don't push her. When she says no, it means no. It just meant creating space for me. And yeah, it was a fight. And I had not stood up for myself again for all my born days. And I cried a lot. And often when I would say no, I'd stand there and cry and shake, but it was still no.
Thank you for sharing that incredibly honest understanding and perspective on what it means to say no. Because I think there's a misunderstanding sometimes that when people choose themselves, when we choose this journey of growth, that it's all sugar and lollipops, right? It isn't, people. And I applaud you for being honest about that, because whenever we put ourselves first, first of all, it is a choice, but it's usually not that easy, right? If it were easy, we would have done it already. If it were easy, we
Yeah,
would
long ago.
have like, oh, yeah, it's okay that I, tell my parents I don't believe what they're telling me and I'm just going to go my own way. Like that's just not human nature.
Yeah.
I'm, I really do applaud you for your sticking with this understanding that you matter and that you matter no matter what. Can I ask how that decision affected your faith, if it affected your faith? Because you mentioned it earlier, faith,
Yeah.
parents, and then you.
Yeah. So, to give some background there, I grew up in a pretty serious cult. So, there's a whole nother layer. And it was during the time of healing that I started to peel back the layers of what is truth and what is not truth. So, it was a whole unfolding and a whole becoming. I feel coming back to me, who I actually am, cracking open. Yeah.
Can I ask, did it take as long to crack open and find the real you as it did to cover up the real you, like time wise? Because sometimes we think, man, it's taken, I've been this way for 30 years or 40 years. That's how I was raised.
Yeah.
Is it worth it to try and find the real me? Because I'm so used to living in this body. Does that resonate? I think it resonates.
Oh my gosh, it is so worth it. Please, it is so worth it. I'll tell you what, the light at the end of the tunnel is so bright and warm and luscious. Uh, Thankfully, it didn't take me. Like my first symptoms, and I'll just kind of timeline with symptoms. The first symptom that I remember was when I was 9 years old. So, roughly, I don't know, 20 some years of having multiple sclerosis. And as a very young kiddo, like God or the universe or light or whatever you want to call it was more real to me almost than people. I cannot believe I'm sharing this with you. And then the indoctrination began. And that just slowly closed up, closed up, closed up. And to where I didn't even know who I was. I didn't know what my true voice was. And then when I started to choose me and actually try to figure out what in the heck that meant, and started to peel open, I almost feel like I was peeling away layers of stuck old ick over my heart and really starting to unfold. I still feel like that is still happening. The unfolding and the understanding more of who I am. But like cracking away and really finding what truth was for me, that was a real journey. And it alienated me mostly from my family because they're still in that belief system. I still love them. They still love me.
Of course, that's how are they? how are they navigating okay, how are they navigating your recovery? And then I want to go and talk about your recovery.
Sure. So the closest people watching my recovery were my kids, obviously. And they didn't know what to do with it at first. They thought mom had truly cracked open. But now, as they talk about it, they're like, well, that's just normal. You just figure out what's going on and you get better. Like, why can't everybody in the world do that?
So adorable.
um, my siblings were very just observing and, were just watching. But my mom and my brother were, they still hold me at whatever kind of out here. And yeah, it was an interesting process. And I guess it wasn't as easy for them to watch, but I was on my way. I was determined. So gave love and understanding and listened. But I'm like, you do you, but I'm doing me.
Wow. So what exactly did you do? Come on.
Oh, so working with the practitioner that I was sharing with you about, um, really started to unravel what was going on in my body that was sideways. So understanding that I had a huge candida overgrowth, major bacterial issues, parasites, um, structural misalignment, and so much trauma.
I just want to sit here for 1 minute because what type of a doctor was he?
Chiropractor, kinesiologist, but also did a lot of neuro emotional trauma work.
Okay, so I just want to take a moment to share with our listeners that it is okay to keep looking for answers because not all doctors know what you need. And there's even one of those terms I'm not familiar with, but don't give up searching for answers because the chances are your GP isn't going to know them because they're a GP, general practitioner. But yeah, I just wanted to call that out because first of all, I was very curious. But whenever we are ill, whether mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, or all of the above, keep looking for people that can help you because if you have it, there is a way to help it. That's
Exactly.
the way the world works, right? Like if you have an idea, there's a way to execute it. If you have an issue, a challenge, there is a remedy for it. You just
Yeah.
have to find it. Okay, please continue with your story. Sorry I interrupted.
Oh, you're so good, dear. May I speak to a piece of that?
Yes.
Like, I feel like I was divinely directed to him because I was not looking. I was not looking at all for anybody. I had given up. I was like, done. This is what I am. This is what's going to happen. Done. But what I wasn't listening to was this little thing in my heart that was saying, woo, this is not you. This does not have to be you. And if I can just share, like, ditto to what kind of you were sharing, is lean into the deep knowledge when you're looking for a practitioner or someone, if they can echo and really resonate with that little voice that's saying, woohoo, you can be well, lean into that. That's a good indicator that that person just might be someone to help you on your journey.
Two things I want to call out. Yes, I believe you are divinely led. I think we are all divinely led. The difference is that some of us see it, some of us don't. Sometimes it takes years to recognize the messages.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking especially to those who have not been raised with a spiritual background or with a religious background. I mean, there's a difference.
Yeah.
I've become more and more spiritual as I get older. I've
Me
never,
too.
but I'm incredibly spiritual now, and I listen, and I'm excited to listen. And it began with the understanding that I am more than this body. This is the shell that I chose to be in
Yeah.
in this incarnation. I'm actually a spiritual being having a human existence, just like everybody else on the planet.
Yeah.
That realization didn't come. I wasn't born with that understanding. Well, I may have been, but I kind of forgot along the way. Now I have it again. So I want to call out that's listening to your intuition, trusting that you are here for more. And also, it's very badass to trust, to understand and act on why you're here,
Mm.
right? Even if why you're here is just to be the best mom ever. That's a great reason to be here in this world. If your reason for being here is to learn, teach, and grow, and then teach others, party on. Totally badass. The world needs you right now more than ever. I totally
Mm.
believe that the world needs what we're doing
Yeah.
so badly. So whatever it is that you're called to do, don't discount that, because that calling comes from in here or from out there, depending on how you look at it. So, okay, thank you.
Oh, I love that. But that leads into why I do this work. I never, it took me a long time to come to this place, but I feel like my journey with multiple sclerosis, I don't know why I'm bawling over this, but was the greatest gift I could have ever been given. Because if I hadn't walked that journey, both of illness, all the shit that comes with it, and also walked the road of recovery, how could I effectively help others walk that same road?
Okay, so would you say now, Melissa, that you came into this world to experience this specifically so you could make a difference with others who are experiencing this? That's your thing. The nursing, you had an inkling that
Yeah.
wasn't the right path. It's going to be the one for you. Okay, how long did it take with all of the different work that you had with this doctor? How long did it take for you to see enough of a difference that you were like, okay, this is actually more than normal?
Oh, well, the first inkling started about 2 weeks in, when I started to get some feeling back in my hand, the tingling.
Hmm.
And I was like, what? Um, and then it just was kind of, and again, I had to make the choice to follow what he was telling me, because it didn't make sense to me. I had to choose to do it.
So what are some of the things that didn't make sense to you, but you did it anyway?
So ranch cook, right? I baking pies, bread. That was my specialty. I was really good at it. But one of the first things he took me off of was gluten, because my body was so allergic to it. And I thought, this is the dumbest thing ever in the whole world. What do you eat besides bread? And the gluten-free stuff tastes like cardboard. Yuck. I was a baker. I knew what it was supposed to look like and feel like and all the things. But I did it. And I did it long enough for the inflammation to recede enough to let the nerve impulses again work. And I was like, this
Like,
is cool.
it's cool. Okay, so you adjusted your diet.
There was a lot more to it, but that was what gave me my first feedback, if you will, that my body might be able to get better. And to be honest, I had been bad enough, long enough, that even the doctor I was working with, or the practitioner I was working with, did not even expect me to fully recover, because there's a good chance that there was going to be permanent nerve damage.
All right, so you changed your diet.
Yep.
You had an up and down. I'm assuming, and we haven't even talked about the emotional up and downs, but I'm
Oh
assuming that,
gosh, yeah. Lots of tears.
yeah. What are some other things that you did that you thought at the time were like, well, this is weird, but I might as well?
Yeah. So taking supplements, to bring the inflammation down, really help the body, normalize. So let's see, what did we do? We did a lot of oregano to really work on the candida issues and some of the bacterial stuff. We did mimosa pudica for parasites. We did, oh gosh, he had me taking so many supplements there for a while. Tons of like fish oil, omega 3, omega 6, omega 9. Yeah. really kind of working through all the layers. I don't remember all of them because it was a long time ago.
Really, what I'm hearing is that you took a completely no holds barred attitude to I'm willing to try. If my body can make,
What if it works?
yeah, what it, exactly what if, but what if it does work? If my body can eat itself and kill itself, maybe with the right environment, it can actually fix itself.
And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah. Okay. So how long until, I mean, do you still suffer from MS?
No,
Loud and proud. So, Melissa, are you still suffering from multiple sclerosis?
no,
Wow.
no. It took about 2.5 years for my last symptom to go away. And since then, that was about eight. Let's see, I'm 48. And that was about the year I was 40, um, 39, 40. So 8 years without symptoms at all. And I just keep getting better. And I keep working on the parts of myself that I see that once you get better, you just keep working on it. I don't know what to say. Um, I have a really in-depth specialized neurological test that I use on my clients. And to be honest with you, I had used it for several years, but I was afraid to do it on myself because I was like, what if I still have MS markers? Am I going to be able to handle that?
Let's talk about what you currently do. Explain it. What's your title? What's your work? What the hell?
So I'm an applied functional medicine practitioner. I am not a doctor by choice. I've been offered that opportunity twice and I just can't do it because what I do now is I'm able to go wherever my clients need me to go. Um, I specialize in autoimmune, obviously, but work with, people from wee littles to I think my oldest client was 98 years old. Um, so really just whatever people need, I'm able to pretty much provide because it's simple. We figure out what's going on in the body and why, and we work on it.
It sounds so simple, and my reaction is, well, if it's that simple, why haven't we been doing it all along? Come on.
Right. Yeah. I don't know the answer to that because to me it's so straightforward. It just makes sense, but it doesn't make sense to everybody. And it doesn't make sense to like every practitioner. Like I was just sharing this with a partner that we're working on collaboration together and she's like, it just makes sense. And I'm like, I know, but it doesn't make sense for everybody.
Fair enough. Can I ask why you got so emotional a while ago?
My mom says my bladder's behind my eyeballs. Not really. Truth, I choose to live with my heart wide open. And if something I can share today that's deep and emotional for me can help you or anybody that is listening to this, I am so all in.
And I want to say thank you because one of the things I have learned in my life, and I'm working hard to share it with my clients and with my kids, is the most important thing we can do as human beings is to make a connection with someone else, or 1,000 someone else's, or 1,000,000 someone else's, even the person next door. So I really honor and applaud you for opening up to us and my audience this way. I want to thank you for that. Okay. So much badassery in what you're sharing. And I want to highlight that, you know, we can sometimes adopt an attitude of laissez-faire and this is me and I'm a total badass and I got my stuff together. But really,
Yeah, no.
you know, you know, it takes real work and it takes real
Yeah.
honesty and vulnerability to say there's got to be more. I am more than this. Even if even if the disease or the challenge that we are facing we don't get rid of or we don't navigate it 100%, we are always more than the labels we put on ourselves. And I think it's one of the biggest, most badass things that people can do is to recognize that I am not a label. We use labels as human beings because it's easier to categorize and let's just call the label rather than the deep, intricate human being that's sitting in front of me. But that doesn't always serve our purpose. That doesn't always serve us well. And if
Exactly.
you ever find yourself feeling that way, trust your feeling. right? Trust your feeling. If you don't want to be labeled, then don't allow yourself to be labeled. You can use it yourself in context, but feel free to tell us more. Like, I want to know more about you. So, a little side note there. Okay, so what are, do you work one-on-one? Do you work in do you do group work? Like, how exactly does your work unfold for your clients?
Right. So I work one-on-one most of the time. We have three different tiers of care for our clients, depending on what their needs are. So if it's somebody with a pretty complex autoimmune condition, I like to put them in the upper tier if they can, if that's what works for them and if that's what they feel like they want to do, because it's a higher level of commitment. But really working one-on-one with me, all the testing that we need, all the, all the juicy goodness that we need to really understand what's going on with their body. And then we have a mid-level for people who are really, they don't have such an intricate set of circumstances going on for them. And then we have an entry level that really just works on food situations, really understanding what can nourish your body and what doesn't, and then working on the mindset and movement pieces. For some people, that's enough to really help their body reset and just kind of snap into recovery mode and really move them toward what they want to accomplish. So, yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun to do this work.
Now, is this work something that you can do online or does it have to be in person?
So I used to have an office and then COVID happened.
Oh,
And even my clients that love to come in, they were like, let's just do Zoom. So I was like, why do I have an office and I'm paying rent on this space and I'm having Zoom, whatever. So we serve people 100% online, and we work with people in the US as well as internationally. Like roughly a third of our clientele is outside of the country.
so exciting. And I got to be honest, all I can think about is, oh, I can't wait to share this episode with so and so. I got to make sure someone else watches that, listens to this episode. What do you
Yeah.
think, though, when you look back on your life, Melissa, what are some of the things that you want to call out and share with me and our audience that you think were either pivotal moments for you that were a challenge or pivotal moments of beating the challenge of growth or just some real tips that you know will help our listeners to feel better about who they are and what they may be facing with in a body that's not responding the way they want.
Ooh, I love that question. So the first thing that comes into my mind is, who are you for real? Lean into who are you under all the layers of what everybody has laid on you and expected out of you and said you should be and to do and to be the good girl, the good boy, to do all the things. Who are you under all of that? Reconnect to who you are. You are beautiful and you are whole. Your body is not broken. You are not broken. And I say that with a weight of my own personal knowledge and years of clinical work. You are not broken, my precious person. Don't be afraid to lean into that and lean into the wisdom that lives inside of you. If your body isn't working well for you, know that it's doing its damnedest to function under the conditions that it has. And it's okay to really lean in and ask your body, what do you need from me? Look in the mirror, look in your own eyes. Can you say, I love you?
So powerful and very poetic. I want to thank you for that. I think, speaking from experience, there have been many times as I hit menopause that I really got angry. Look at what you menopause, you suck. Like, this is not fair. Na 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 na, like on and on. And I'm still kind of in that mode, to be honest. I'm still kind of like angry and thinking, this is wrong. Somehow it's my body has deserted me. It forgot about me. And really, I mean, that's such BS because the truth is what I'm going through is natural. my attitude towards it may not be, right? Or it may be natural, but it's not what's needed. So I want to thank you for your tips that you just shared with us, Melissa. And folks listening, of course, check the show notes, because everything that she's got to offer, how to connect with her on her social media links, everything's going to be posted in the show notes, because we want you to reach out. We want you to question. And both of us are very passionate about giving you permission to be your best, whatever that looks like for you. Like, just like you said, Melissa, know that you're not broken. That actually really, that kind of gave me the shivers. You are not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. And you are worthy of feeling amazing in your body. Whatever stage you're at in your life, or whatever stage your body's at, you are worthy of feeling great about it. I just loved this conversation so much. And, there's lots of things that we didn't touch on because, time-wise, but I want to thank you for sharing your wisdom and your story with our listeners. And I look forward to doing it again.
Oh, thank you so very much. Yeah, I love what you're doing, my dear. Keep up the good work.
I will if you will.
Done.
Tune in next week to the Art of Badassery, where I will have yet another badass guest. My name is Mahara. Have an amazing week. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to another badass episode. Your support means the world to me. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, don't forget to like, share, and rate the episode on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback keeps the badassery flowing. And hey, if you're ready to unleash your inner badass and conquer whatever life throws your way, why not book a complimentary badass breakthrough session? Just click the link in the show notes to schedule your session, and let's kick some serious butt together. Until next time, stay fearless, stay fabulous, and of course, stay badass. This is Mahara signing off.